Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake for the Nintendo Switch. I recently just finished it, and to not give spoilers to people, I am playing only at the beginning area. So if you're hoping to see some exciting things at the end, those will be left for you to discover. So I have my notes, good, the bad, and pretty much everything else. So I'm going to start wandering around the beginning area. I need to see the holy. Yeah, so the stuff, I moved some stuff before I came here. And now here we're going to get into a fight with horrible enemies. And that's probably going to be what's going to happen this entire playthrough for the review. Is we'll be fighting horrible enemies that probably already exist. Again, I want to save any possibility of spoilers or anything else. If you're on the fence, I don't want to ruin the game. So we're just going to walk around, pretty much fighting trash mobs, as I think they would call it. Wow. So starting off with the good, more Dragon Quest, always good. I have been a fan of Dragon Quest probably since it was called Dragon Warrior on the NES. I've never actually beaten the first one, but I've beaten 2 through 9, and I haven't played 11 yet. So that's probably on me to actually, at some point, it's on sale. It's on super sale at points, and I still haven't beaten it. So that again, that one's kind of on me. With this new update, there's plenty of secret places. So these secret places have gear I view mostly as kind of worthless, especially if you're getting them going back after you have other modes of travel and getting them later. A lot of them are gear-wise useless because there's little blue glowy things on the world map where you can just go and get stuff, and there's actual little places that you can walk into and get stuff as well. That being said, usually they have some sort of seed with them, and those seeds, they're stat seeds. There's plenty to go around. So if you're doing something with, if you need a character stat up, like the hero or anything else, there's a ton of them. So I've seen guides online, wait till the caps and stuff like that. If you're just playing it like me, you're not going to the caps. I'm not even doing the post game stuff. I've got a gamer backlog kind of large, so I'm just going to pretty much skip it for now, like I did with 9. And I came back a few years later, after maybe a decade later, if it's been out a decade, to do the post game stuff. But that's only because I was had a short stint of unemployment and had to find another job. So if it's not doing interviews, it was playing Room Factory 3 or 4 or Dragon Quest 9. So now I kind of want to get into the classes. I did not play as certain classes. I used the hero, a warrior, the monster masher, and then a priest, which I turned into a sage. And that's pretty much what we've been doing the entire time since we've been able to go to All Trades Abbey and change stuff. So I'm pretty happy with what they've done with all the classes. The warrior has abilities. The sage has other stuff. Just magic. The hero has both. And sorry for the dog barking. He doesn't know how to act during reviews. He thinks I'm talking to him. And the hero has both, you know, he has magic and abilities. So if someone blocks your magic, you can still use abilities. It's not all in one group. I do think to run a little bit, I do think that the Monster Masher is a little broken if you are getting all of the monsters. Because there are monster arenas and stuff like that, but if you're getting all the I think the Monster Masher is probably one of the higher damaging classes in the game. If you bother to get the monsters. If you don't bother to get the monsters, then you should probably use something else instead, because they do have an ability where they can actually just, it'll tell you that there's a monster in the area, and it'll tell you if it's out now or if it's out later, but it won't tell you where it is, which is fine. They've added, you know, rematch and autosave features. So I lost to the final boss. It allowed me to just rematch the final boss, which is nice, because otherwise you would have to, you know, they would revive you, you would go to a church, and then you'd have to go all the way back through the dungeon and level up again. I did finish the game at level 52, and that is including a lot of wandering around. I got like 64 mini medals and 102, I think, monsters. I think there's like 110, maybe 101 monsters. I know I have over 100. There's some new scenes which we will not be seeing on this review at all. Again, save them for you and to watch them if you're on the fence about buying it. So, you know, again, those won't be, but there's a lot of new scenes to kind of fill in backstory and kind of add some more and add another level of what's kind of going on in the Dragon Quest world. The objective markers, those are also pretty nice. It's been 20 years since I've played Dragon Quest 3, and they tell you where you need to be going, but they don't tell you necessarily what you need to do. Now, you can turn them off if you're more of, I guess I'm going to call you an originalist, where you can just say, hey, I just want to explore the world, and just, you know, it will, I'll figure out what to do instead of the game telling me, okay, I need to go here or there. But they are nice. As someone who, I got this around Christmas, and it took me until February 12th to beat it. So, I mean, I don't have a ton of time to game. I have some. But, you know, it's nice to kind of just like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm going here. Instead of having to, you know, deal with the kid, deal with Gemma, and then having to sit back down and remembering, okay, where was I at? Sometimes it's, you know, I don't get as much time as I would like. So next, Zoom and Evac, they are now free, which kind of leads me to the question: do we need Evac anymore? They tell you in the first town that you no longer have to worry about hitting your head on ceilings, so you can just warp out. Because I remember that was a big thing about having 12 spells. One would warp you out of the dungeon, and then one you can go back and heal. Well, now you can just use Zoom and just go wherever you want to. We're in, you know, whatever dungeon that you're in. So it's nice, but it makes Evac kind of worthless, because I don't know what it's used for if you can just zoom out of dungeons. The ability to change personality. So I was given Lazy Bones because I only pushed the rock to the guy once. I've not seen the other scenes. I did not grind for Vamp. There's books in there, and I think items will change you to certain personalities. So if you get a certain personality that you don't like, you can change it. I, however, did not change mine because in real life I am a lazy bones. So I thought it was fairly accurate to if the hero's part of me to be a lazy bones. All the cursed items are relatively marked in their description, and they have, you know, the names that kind of meet that description where it's like, you know, the ookie spooky sword, like, well, maybe I shouldn't equip that because it looks cursed. But in the description, it'll tell you that it's cursed. And, you know, that kind of helps so you don't equip it. So, I mean, the benediction of the... Is it benediction? Or is it... Maybe that's the XP one. I only go to priests and nuns to save. I have not been cursed, so... That's pretty much all I know about that. I've never equipped a cursed item. Some of the broken items from like 9 have returned, which is good or bad depending on how you view it. I like them, but they are late in the game where stuff kind of starts to ramp up anyway. Because I did not go to the places where you grind liquid metals or anything like that. I just pretty much just played, and then, you know, I didn't do any grinding whatsoever, and I didn't really need it because, I mean, I went out for the monsters and went for all the little secret spots and stuff like that. So they're nice, but they're not necessarily required. The combat speed is nice because you can speed up the combat instead of it being super slow. You can now kind of, if you're used to it. I mean, I think they've done this in the remakes for DS, Dragon Quest 9. If you're used to it, you can pretty much just tell what's going on pretty fast. You don't have to read the text. But it's still nice that you can speed up the battle without, you know, just like, hey, I want it ultra fast. And that's what I've had it on. And then, because your party members who are at the bottom will tell you, well, they won't tell you, but there will be icons if they're, you know, poisoned, paralyzed, whatever status problem they have. So you may even have attention to those. And since I've not played 11, and maybe I've missed it, there's now certain monsters have weakness types. You know, some are weak against whips, some are weak against boomerangs, some are weak against spells. This and that. It's nice that they've kind of taken it, and this may have been in the series for a while, and I've just not paid attention to it. But it is nice, and it does add some difficulty. So you just can't walk up and punch a crab, and because crabs have hard shells, you know, your physical attack is not going to do as much, but your magic spells will do kind of more. So some of the bad things that I'm noticing to get over to this side is that there are a lot of enemies that are non-bosses that are what I'm going to say not the kind of normal monsters who will do this. They double attack a lot, and it's just kind of like, okay, there's 5 monsters on the screen, so you're gonna have to sit through 10 possible attacks. I'm like, I'm used to the normal monsters just attacking once, and some of the normal monsters attacking twice, and bosses going multiple times. But this I was not kind of used to, so it's kind of a little bit of a downer. And one of my other points, my next point actually, to some of that, is the spamming of thwack, and whack by they'll just spam it, just go all at it, and it's kind of annoying because you and I'm not talking about canna boxes and stuff like that, but it's some of these normal enemies with it will just cast it 3 or 4 times, in a row if you let them. You know, there's one group of monsters that you can easily see it 5 times in one round, and it's just annoying. I'm not a huge fan of instant death attacks. I think they're kind of BS on both sides. You know, for you to use them and for them to be used on you. That's just me personally. I just think they're kind of just BS. And to kind of go along with the double attack, a lot of enemies will sit there and spam their best attack, you know, their breath attack or their spell while they're attacking twice, or they'll sit around and they'll do it once and then they'll do a status problem. And yeah, there are items to prevent them, but it seems a little heavy-handed. Like, oh, here you getting hit for 60 damage, and then I'm going to try to paralyze you. And it just kind of repeats. It kind of makes the last dungeon a little bit annoying with all of that kind of wrapped up. I don't mind being one-shotted because I'm wandering around in a place that I don't belong. I do mind 5 enemies casting thwack 10 times and then killing everybody because they're going to go somehow before I go. And I've used a bunch of agility seeds on my hero so that he's not super slow. Another thing, you can't turn back from a stage to something else and then back to a stage without the writ, which is super annoying. Again, I know they had a goof off class in the original 3, and you could switch over to, you know, goof off to sage, and then you can kind of move them around. And once you got the item, you could move them around. But once they're a sage, they should be remembered as a sage, and then you can switch them back to a sage if you wanted to switch them to something else. It's just kind of more annoying. I tried to play around with some classes, and then when I realized that, I'm like, nope. We're just going to keep everybody kind of as is. We've done good so far. We'll just continue that. So this is me personally again. I think that the rewards for getting monsters is vastly superior to getting the mini medals. If you were going through a playthrough and it's like, I'm only going to do one, to me the monster ones are vastly superior. They happen less often, but to me they're better. And if you have a monster masher, it just pairs well together. The mini medal ones aren't bad, but I think just with what's going on, that it's just, if you're going to get one, get the monsters. They're easier to get than the mini medals. Excuse me. There's a tooltip in the first village, which is right there, that the further back someone is in the party, the less likely they are to get to attack. I found that to be false. Most of the time people are attacking my sage or my monster masher instead of my hero or my warrior, and they're doing it constantly. Either they're trying to hit everybody, or they're going to the back row. So to me, don't put it in if it's not true. These monsters won't do it because they're getting, you know, pretty much just killed by 1 or 2 attacks. They all should be killed by 1 attacks. But no, don't put that tooltip in there because I've noticed that they will specifically go out and just attack my sage, like bam, 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 until she's dead. And it's just kind of annoying. So don't put that in there if it's not true. And if it is true and I'm just that unlucky, maybe you shouldn't put that in there anyway. To me, again, this is probably not playing the one that was released, the Dragon Quest 3 that was released on Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance. Some of the personalities seem useless. I went through the list trying to see what my Lazy Bones did, and it just kind of seems that there's some that just don't do much of anything at all. And maybe that's an incomplete list, or they don't know at the time. But I think all the personalities should do something. And if I'm wrong, call me out on that. I mean, I've read a lot about Vamp being the best one, but it's, to me, it's there seems a lot that just don't do anything. There should be a normal personality which encompasses all of that. It's super easy to make money in the monster arenas. I've got 500,000 gold just from monster arenas sitting in the bank. I've not had to really buy gear, and I probably don't have the best gear, but you know, you get tons of money for doing it that I ended up just not needing, because healing, I can just go back to the hero's house because Zoom is free, and then Zoom back for free. I am relatively cheap when it comes to RPGs, even though it's 80 gold, I think, for some of the higher ones, or the ones closer to the end. But it was, so you see right there, they all attacked the Sage and the Monster Master. They did not attack the front row, which is again annoying. Holy Protect seems to be broken. There's some areas where I was obviously higher level than the enemies, and it doesn't work. But there's some places where the enemy's level is higher than mine, and it works. Like, I can use it here in this level 1 area, and it'll work fine. But there's other places where I used it, and it would work. But like, these monsters are better than I am, or a higher level, and there's places where the monster level was obviously lower and it didn't work. So I don't know if that's a setting in there or what, but it's just kind of like, can I use it, can I not use it, especially if you're running into trouble or you're just wanting to finish one of the dungeons because they're casting thwack and whack too much. And I think some enemies seem misplaced. This is not like the final dungeon enemies. This is kind of throughout the middle of the game, where there's some enemies that offer you too much experience, but deal kind of too much damage for where they should be. And maybe it's me wandering around possibly where I shouldn't have been. But there's a few that just seem like, hey, I don't necessarily belong here. Maybe I should be further in the game. Again, I'm not gonna tell you which ones. If you play it, if you play it, you'll probably see what I mean. That there's a few that just seem out of place. So, excluding the time for the review, this game took me about 43.5 hours to beat. I thoroughly enjoyed it. As at the top, I said I enjoyed more Dragon Quest. I plan to buy the next one that comes out whenever it comes out, and someday I plan to buy the next one as well, the 1 and 2, and if 12 ever comes out, I'll probably buy 12 as well. So that is all for this review. Again, I really enjoyed the game. If you're on the fence, I think it's a really enjoyable game to play. I mean, there's hiccups, but it's more Dragon Quest. You can't be upset with that. Well, I can't be upset with that. So I'm just gonna kind of end it here. So thanks for listening, and I hope you all have some great fun.